So this film, one of the things I really love about it is that these characters seem so real, even though it's a comic exaggeration. How did you approach these characters? Jake at the beginning, not the college part, but soon after. He's kind of a jerk, seems to be.
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, that's
Seems honest.
That's the question. Is he a jerk or not?
Yeah, I feel like in today's, political landscape, the word jerk is so relative. He's a straight shooter with a point of view.
Amen.
No. What was your question?
Did you see him as a jerk, or did you see him as just an ordinary guy?
No, I guess I saw. No, I didn't see him as a jerk at all. But because I think it's our job to sort of find the humanity of these people. I mean, I got to see 12 Years a Slave at the Toronto Film Festival. And I got to hear Sarah Paulson and Michael Fassbender talk about their characters in that movie, and those people were jerks, right? And yet they could use, like, I mean, this is a guy who was in love with a woman, a black woman that he couldn't be in love with because she was black, and that's a woman who was being cheated on by her husband and who cheated with this black woman. So they used the evils of the time to their advantage, or to get out their demons. I feel like Jake is a guy who is in a great deal of pain, and yet at the same time wants to not let anyone that he's involved with deal with that pain. And so that's why he's very candid and very, forthright with his information, and also probably dissecting her in a way that perhaps in that first scene, in a way that may seem like he's minimizing her psychology, but at the same time is being very, transparent. And I don't think that that's a jerk. I think there's a lot shittier people in the world that say they're one thing and then are actually another. I think hypocrisy is much worse than transparency. And so no, I don't think he was a jerk. But the only reason I brought those two much better actors was because I wish they were here to speak for me.
Amen.
Amen. But also because like it's our job to sort of find. When I heard them talk about it, they had to find the humanity of those characters, and that's all like I'm trying to get across there. But it's not my job to judge him. It's just pretend to be him. So I don't think he's a jerk.
I stand corrected.
Also, no, there's no also. There's no also.
Well, Alison, why is Lainey so hung up on the most boring guy in college?
Lainey is just a bitch. I like to just judge.
So, very different. There you know, it's like
stupid.
It's our craft.
Stupid bitch. I think no. I agree with you about never judging your characters, but I also think that for me, Lainey is a character with very low self-worth. That's at the heart of her character, is that she just puts her own value in the hands of someone else. She's just like waiting for permission to love herself. And it's like that guy, she chose him so early in her life. She chose him when she was in college, when she was young and vulnerable. And it's like she's matured beyond that in other aspects of her life, but not romantically. She can't get past that point with this person kind of just holding her breath, waiting for him to come around and choose her in return. And, she's blinded by it. She doesn't see him as an asshole either. And I think also because the character of Sovacek is at his most vulnerable when he's with Lainey. She might be the only person who knows the real him and loves him anyway. Mm-hmm. I think that she just thinks her love also will be enough for both of them, but it's not.
Mm. So sad. So, you look so sad, Leslye.
Oh my God. It's just so amazing to hear them talk about them like that, because I feel understood when the actors understand my characters. So I as Leslye, feel understood as a person.
Well, how much of yourself did you put in these characters?
They're both me, for sure. But I always say I invent characters to feel my feelings for me. And I usually start with characters either based on real life experiences or people that I know, or all that kind of stuff. But I also like to see them, once I start to get to the point of like writing them on the page, and then of course, you know, directing the performances. I like to think of them in filmic, you know, cinematic terms. Like I always thought of Jake as like Christoph Waltz from Django Unchained, except he's talking about pussy instead of like whatever Christoph Waltz was talking about in that movie.
It's hard with the accent.
I don't
Hard.
really know what he was saying, but it sounded convincing. And that's how I feel about Jake. I'm like, what'd you say? I'm in. And I think Lainey, I always thought of her as, you know, like, you know, if we told Fatal Attraction from Glenn Close's point of view, you know, which, if I felt a lot of sympathy for Alex in that film. So yeah, so it starts from, you know, as, I don't know, most of my stuff starts from, my own personal experience, people I know, question that I ask myself, you know, with Bachelorette, my first film, the question was, are we really all still trying to get married? And in this film, it was like, am I worth loving? I think was the question, you know, or am I, as the viewer, as, you know, like, you know, the question that we would ask ourselves as we watched the movie was, do I still believe in love? Am I worth loving? Can I find love in this world, you know?
So after you wrote the screenplay and you cast these two, did you tailor the characters to them in any way?
Well, I really love to meet with the actors once they're cast and really go through the whole script. I mean, we went through the whole script for hours and hours of like staring at each other's faces and talking about the script. And I don't think we talked about a lot on the phone.
We didn't do that at all. It's weird.
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
What's your name again? But I think we talked on the phone a little bit before when we were in pre-production. And then that's when I start to get the feedback of like, because for me it's like, well, I know what I think, but like you actually have to do it. So what's up? Like what are you bumping on? What do you not like? I mean, I like to, you know, and then I do another draft. And then, you know, of course, improv on set and all of that kind of stuff. But hopefully the actors will immerse themselves in the characters as much as I'm immersing myself in the process of making the movie. That's sort of the goal, you know. So I don't remember your original question.
I think that these characters were so, well, I mean, had you not had Jason in mind when you were writing it?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And the Lainey character, I connected with so immediately. I don't feel like you needed to change anything to fit me into that character.
Oh,
like
no.
it was an easy fit.
No, not at all. But it was sort of the, you know, coming in, especially during takes, and coming in and going like, this sounds weird, right? Like this isn't working, this part. You know what I mean? Like, or do you think this part is working? Or like, what are we missing from the sentence or the line or the exchange?
Yeah, it wasn't like you took a pass of the whole script and were like, let's tailor this to these two. No, that was what the question was.
Okay.
Did you tailor it to the
I'm back.
Right.
I'm back, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But Jason, she has been saying that what you were looking for was a Jack Lemmon quality, and that's
That
what
you
you
could
found
fuck.
in him. Exactly.
As if
Because
you could've-
nobody wants to fuck Jack Lemmon. Like, nobody.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I just want to point out
They
that
give
he's
him a
dead,
squeeze.
so there's that.
And well, there's also that.
Right, yeah. So
Still.
Speak for yourself. What is that character?
She's coming out.
Something.
She's coming out.
But did you talk about that while you were making the film, or did she just start saying that behind your back later?
Yeah. Both. I mean, I'd oddly heard the Jack Lemmon thing personally before. Pete and Bobby Farrelly very kindly said the same thing about me when I worked with them on this movie Hall Pass, of all things. Like and I was very flattered by it because he's great, you know, obviously, and a legend. But you know, you can't. I don't view myself in that regard. And then when a second person says the same thing, then you got to be like, oh, maybe. No. I still don't. But I understand that, you know, speaking as Leslye was saying in cinematic terms, I kind of like that. It's like a nice little metaphor. It's a good way to make the invisible visible. And it's why we always say, oh, it's like Die Hard, but in a ranch house. You know, it's like, you know, it's the executive, you know, way of speaking. It helps sell an idea. But but I think it was mostly like the idea of an everyday guy, because I certainly feel like that. I don't feel all that, you know, special or unique. I feel like a majority of other people, and then adding that level of what you would view as like maybe possibly jerky might be just a facade. You know, it's a mask that he's wearing so he doesn't, you know, get hurt. You know, ultimately, because he much like Lainey doesn't feel like he's all that lovable as well, or probably. And something that I could, you know, potentially, and have certainly in my past felt about myself, that I'm gonna let you down. Like if, you know, with great power of like whether it's swagger or like a swift tongue, you know, both verbally or otherwise, like comes a great responsibility, and to let, you know, some people just really are good, you know, are good for new employees, bad veterans, you know, at the job, and Jake probably skewed that way just as a protection to himself. You know, I don't know, like, you know, Jack Lemmon, you wanna have sex with her, fuck her, like. I mean, I get it.
He did become less of a jerk. I will give him that.
Yeah, most people do as you get to know him. You know, don't you have
Not
friends out
always,
there? It's like,
yeah.
oh, you got to
Some
get to know
people
this
are-
guy. He's just weird when you first meet him. Any girl that ever tells you about a guy, I mean, she's seen that fucking dude cry. Like, but there's like guys out there that are dickheads, like to guys and to other people. But eventually they get vulnerable with someone. You meet their dad's a dickhead. You're like, oh, you're not that bad of a guy. Your dad's the dickhead.
Compared to your dad.
You know, like.
That's true. It's all relative. You're
It's
right.
like it's all relative,
You're
and we eventually get to learn these people. And very often in modern day movies, we're concerned about likability from page minute fucking 1, versus in the 70s it was like, no, it's Jack Nicholson. He's a son of a bitch from beginning to end, and he, you know, but we like him by the end because we get to see why he's a son of a bitch. You know, here you can only do that in movies in the golden age of fucking television, where you get like 12 episodes and 16 hours to do it, and you watch it all in one felt swoop. And oh, that's why Jack Power is that way. You know, it's like like movies, just there's not enough time. We don't have the attention span for it unless we can control it, and you can't control it. There's no pause button in this theater.
Yeah,
know?
and it's the 60s, in the 60s too, though, like, because
Same,
Billy
yep.
Wilder said, you know, of The Apartment, which was a big inspiration for this film, and one of the reasons, you know, what I specifically think of, the Jack Lemmon character that I think of when I think of Jason, in general, he said the story of The Apartment is the story of a guy who goes from being a schmuck to being a mensch. You know, like, it's like, you know, when Jack Lemmon, when you start that film, like, he's a fucking asshole. Like, I mean, but he's so adorable that you don't notice it until he's like selling out. He's basically pimping out his apartment to pimp out women in order to get ahead in his job.
Yeah.
He's just doing it with so much charm.
Yeah, well, he's just
you know?
caught in the middle. You're
Yeah,
just watching him.
and he's sick. He's got a nose, you know, like he's got a fucking.
Yeah, he's
He takes out the thermometer instead of the pen.
yeah.
What an idiot. You know, like, it's just like, you know, like, and I think that for me, I don't start specifically from a place of like, I want to write shitty people. It's more that I'm like, I just don't think that my dysfunction defines me. I think now it's sort of like, you know, like, for example, like the sex addiction, sort of the way that it's touched upon in the film, and then we sort of move on from it. It's like, the idea is now, you know, one of the notes that I got in the script early on was like, why do you introduce this if you're not going to make the whole movie about it, essentially? You know, and I was like, well, because I don't think people's dysfunction defines them. I don't think that the reason that you're hurting is the only thing that's going on in your life. I think that, especially in a love story, and especially, you know, in a rom-com, one of the reasons the genre is so hated is because you don't really see people change over the course of 90 minutes. Like, they start out likable, they end likable. Attractive people fuck each other. You know, like, it's just like, if only that woman could get rid of that job and stay on that dick. You know, like, it's just like, you know, like,
Oh, why is she so clumsy?
it's so weird. It's like she can't walk or something. Maybe she
This
just
Motown song's good. I like this
This
Motown
Motown song's
song.
good, yeah.
This is catchy.
It's catchy. Yeah.
Well, speaking of sex, I want to ask you about some of the specific things in this movie, like Mousetrap.
Mousetrap.
Where did was that in your original screenplay? or
That
did
was the original word, was
It
mousetrap.
was?
Yeah.
Okay. Was there a runner-up?
No, it was always mousetrap.
There was always
I don't know where that came from. Dick in a mousetrap. Dick in a mousetrap. I don't know.
Oh.
Dick in a mousetrap. I don't remember.
Okay.
It just seemed like a funny word. And then, dick in a mousetrap. I'm trying to like bring it back.
Yeah.
There are too many lights. Avocado was in the script as well.
Yeah.
Noodle salad was not.
No. Is that yours?
No, anything that was said there was her saying it and then me having to like make it
Thank
sexy.
you. You just assume it was him.
Yeah. It's more insulting to me. Because it means that I wasn't able to, I'd have to give you the word to then come up with what it was sexually.
Well, now you're reaching. They were more just like, if any improv was done,
No.
it was Jason.
For the record.
No.
They're all
For the
saying
record,
it
I've
in that
been
voice.
reaching since the second we met. Now I'm reaching?
My favorite one was manila envelope. Do you even remember what you said?
Nope.
No.
You lick an envelope. You stuff an envelope. To watch Jason make everything sexual was probably the highlight of my career.
It was pretty wonderful.
It's like weird
it was
tick.
really wonderful.
It's a thing I can do. One of the first sketches I ever wrote for a sketch group that I had in Kansas City called Dermunkin Pickles, me and 4 guys, was about, I wrote it for my friend Jeremy, who was this great character guy, and he was a license plate editor. You know, like personalized license plates were all the rage. And so he would sit there and people would come in with what they want for their light, swear
And
to God.
he would advise how to...
No, he would just look, he would reject them because he knew everything about the world of sex, and he'd be like, like Hawk fan, which was like a reference to like, a Jayhawk fan, which you'd see a lot in Kansas, the area I grew up in. Hawk fan. Yeah, I graduated from Kansas University. He goes, oh, that's funny because Hawk fan is a sexual taboo ritual where you take hawk talons and you pierce a woman's nipples with it. Get out of my office! you know. And I remember writing that like, at 19, and then here I am, sitting in fucking Manhattan doing the exact same thing.
I'm trying to remember.
Like sexualizing innocuous words that Alison improvised.
Thank you.
Some of them were written on your hand.
you.
Weren't they?
That's true.
No.
But I mean, it is a weird knack that I have to do.
Am I allowed to say that in like more press that we do the ones that we didn't keep? 'Cause they're all
Absolutely.
Yes, I'm so
Yeah,
curious.
I can't remember them.
Nostril.
Like I wouldn't remember the one. Nostril, go for it.
Yep, the vagina of the face.
What's
They were
what's
all
the
so
mouth
good.
if the nostril is the vagina of the face?
That's just the mouth. That's the butthole.
The mouth.
That's the.
Between the cheeks.
Yeah.
You're going to look at faces a whole new way from now on.
And there's teeth, right? Who's with me? Maybe it's just.
We'll never look at faces the same way again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, good luck sleeping tonight.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my
So
God.
in most movies, the director especially, but the actors too, there's usually some scene that you shot that you really hated to lose, but you had to lose because of space or it didn't fit the narrative or whatever. What were your scenes that you wish you could have kept in?
We had, like in When Harry Met Sally, the script originally, and we shot it this way, went 2002, 2007, and then present day. Like there was like a little in between, like when they run into each other on the plane. Has anyone seen When Harry Met Sally?
Or read the book.
Or read the book. Or seen the play. You guys were all born in like 1997, probably.
Good.
You're like all Titanic babies.
Yeah.
Those
They're
assholes.
all kings of the world.
Kings of the world.
Yeah.
Um,
That's one of those scenes is still in there, which is the scene with the gal where I'm being
Yes.
a son of a gun. So like that is actually a 2007 version, that is a 2007 scene that then through the power of editing was made into present time. And so I would agree with you that he is more of a turd at that point in his life, being charmed, because you remember the last time he was that like sort of verbally adept, he ended up having sex for the first time with this foxy lady. Why, at that point, he's like, this is how I'm talking from now on. Like, because, and that's who he is, and so that's who he is at that point, because then when you catch up with him, he's actually in recovery, he's at a sex addict place, and he's much more evolved, 5 minutes later. So that, part of that you're sniffing out there was like, editing, like movie magic, where,
Yeah.
where we condensed that storyline. But
Yeah.
But the scene that you were speaking about, that one.
Yeah, the walk and talk.
Well, there was the walk and talk and the meeting in the hospital.
And the meeting in the hospital,
Meeting
yeah.
in the hospital,
But I
walk
loved,
and talk,
I
and
loved
a
the walk and
final
talk.
walk and talk where
Oh,
we
yeah.
said goodbye, and then Sovacek came in.
Right.
Right, yeah, Adam came in.
Adam came in and we got in an elevator, and my character was engaged to some totally different character at
we
the
never
time.
saw.
And we got in the elevator, and Adam and I go to like take my ring off, and Adam's like, "Leave the ring on." His voice got so, "Leave the
That's
ring
exactly how he
on."
said it.
And then they were like, "We should lose this scene because Adam doesn't talk that way in the rest of the movie."
But we did that walk and talk. It was a Steadicam walk and talk with the two of them with no cuts, and it was so fucking awesome. Like it was and it was all about like dating and like being a tourist.
Yep.
And like all of that and the
A lot
game
of the
joke.
stuff.
The game joke.
When you were like, oh, she's getting married, and you're like, oh, there's another guy. Like he sort of sniffs out that she's sleeping with another guy. He obviously doesn't put it together that it's Adam Scott's character, but he sort of goes, you're having second thoughts. Is there another guy? Is it me?
Right.
And you're like, is this like the game? Like, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Oh, right. Like.
orchestrated you guys coming together. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just great. It was like it was great because it was just the two of them. And it was the two of them doing like a classic New York, you know, walk and talk, being sweet together. And I was sad to lose it. It was.
And it was also, in terms of how we were shooting, that was the first scene that we shot together, I think.
yes.
Because we had been shooting all of Adam's stuff to get him out for something else the first week.
And then we shot all
And
of
you had been with
Amanda
Adam.
and Jason's. And then
And then we came
Yeah.
together, and that was the moment that we keep referencing where we had thought we were shooting this sexual thriller because we were I was trapped in Sovacek world. And it was that day, that scene that ended up getting cut, that was like our first day of walking and bantering and us being like, this is what the movie is. Now cut it because I hate it.
Get it out of our system. Yuck.
So we have some questions from the audience that have been passed up here.
Oh, Lord.
And this actually follows from what you were saying in a way.
Great.
What about the fun of the loose cannons when you give them
Yeah.
a microphone?
Yeah.
And they just go on those racist rants. It's just crazy.
Oh well.
Oh, well.
Okay.
Next one.
There's always the internet.
We'll try to duplicate that rant. Will you
Thank you.
read my screenplay, which is always the one that.
That's what I was
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Read my screenplay. But here's one. What made you give Matt that line about true love that made him redeemable in a way?
Oh, my God. That's such a beautiful, great question. Wherever you are,
What was the question?
you win.
Rachel
question.
Lichman,
Yeah,
wherever you are,
the other one.
they love your question. What made you give Matt Sobchak the line about true love that made him redeemable in a way?
So he says, so Adam, and this is if there are any butter. Bye.
butter.
Good night. Taxi.
Leslye, what were you saying about butter?
Waiter, check please. If there are any budding writer and directors out there, this is a great example of not holding on too tightly to your scene, because we did that scene where she says goodbye to Sovacek. It's the last scene that Adam Scott's in right before they walk down the street and go get married. And we shot it right after the sex scene, a grueling 9-hour shoot of a sex scene. And they were sitting there sort of exhausted. I think you guys were still in your costumes.
We were like super sweaty.
You were still in your costumes from the sex scene, and you were sitting there, and it was really hot, and we were rehearsing the scene. We were rehearsing the lines, and Adam just said it. He had another line there, and you said, the day you made me yours, the day you said, Elaine, I wish I could have known you when you were a little girl. And Adam said, so I could have been your true love. And then looked down and went, oh, that's not the line. And I was like, yes, it is. It is. It's the line, Adam. That is so the line. It was so, that scene was so grueling. I felt horrible making you guys go through it. I was very scared. We went way over that day, and I still had the wherewithal to just go that's it. That's what it is. And you're absolutely right. It breaks my heart seeing him say that, because it just gives you this whole world of what he might have felt about her, and what he's kept away.
I think that. Go ahead. It's your scene. But in just regards to that question, what I love about.
No, you go.
But no, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
About characters being redeemable.
Being redeemable and being more than just their addictions or being, a cad or being that, like, we're so much more interesting than the one version that we put out ourselves online or that people view us from, a far distance. Like, if you let someone get closer, I mean, how great is that? And that someone,
I know.
That's fantastic.
That's why they won.
I didn't know that story, yeah.
Yeah. No, but also, the other thing is, too, that I don't think Sovacek, one of the things Adam and I talked about was that I was like, I don't think Sovacek knows he's the bad guy in this movie.
No,
Well,
you
we're
shouldn't.
only seeing him through Lainey's experiences with him. We don't
Right.
see any other part of his life.
Yeah.
And
So you mean his
what
wife,
was
I
it?
mean, to a
Oh yeah,
degree,
you do
but
that scene, but like.
But not
But
through
still,
his
he's like
eyes.
honed in. It's like
Yeah.
we're seeing it through her experience,
Absolutely, yeah.
spinning out, discovering his pregnant wife. But who did you say? Was it Leah, our costume designer,
yes,
who
yeah.
had said to you something to the effect of like, what? She felt sorry for Sovacek because she was like, man, Lainey's just like the coolest thing that's ever happened to him.
And
Or
it's
something.
and because this all really happened to me, I like started crying because I was like, oh my
I
God.
am cool.
I was like, I am cool. I was the coolest thing there.
But he's like,
I'll
but
take the
he's-
gray suit,
He's
or
no
whatever we
different.
were talking about.
He's scared. He's scared just like we're scared. That's why he stays in a relationship and cheats, like because he's scared of like true intimacy with the woman that he's about to have He's not upset he's upset that he can't deliver the baby, that he can't do his magic trick of being a doctor, and
Which is, by the way, illegal. Like, apparently, somebody told me this when they watched a cut that
Yeah.
if you're a gynecologist, you can't legally, like, deliver your wife's baby. What? I heard this. I don't know if that's true, but I was like, wow, what a control freak.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
yeah.
So we have another question. I think this comes with a private message for you. This is for Jason.
Oh,
Go Royals. As of 9:34, Royals up 63.
that's great.
Okay.
That's great. That's good.
Kansas City represent, that's all we know. But there's a question in here,
Yep.
and the question is, Jake seems like a bit of a departure from your usual role. What drew you to this film, and what was it like to play the lead in a romantic comedy?
What drew me to it was Leslye and then what she had made. I can't recall anything having been written, and nor should it have, with me in mind, only because I've only been doing this a short amount of time. There's other people that, understandably would come to the forefront of, the front of people's minds when sitting down to think, oh, I want to get a movie made. I don't know if I would necessarily be the first thought. I would have written Jake to be Jennifer Lawrence, personally.
Amen.
If you want to get it made. But a departure, I would argue only in the sense that while the destination of the film, the product of the film is different than maybe other things that I've done that have been successful, that the majority of people have seen. The way I've personally have gone about anything that I've done, based on the people that I looked up to back in Kansas City in that sketch group and improv group I was in, but then Second City, and then as a little kid watching movies, have always been people that were just sort of versions of themselves going through these usual people going through unusual situations, so. The way I do The Running Man is the same in What Up With That on SNL is the same way that I go about, finger banging a bottle. Like, it's just like, it's like, how is this guy doing this at this point in his life? And there's no, and I know why both parties are doing while they're doing it, but one gets the opportunity to have a little bit of that exposition, displayed for an audience. So I just took it because I thought it was a great movie, regardless of it being romantic or comedic. I just thought it was a really good story, and I connected immediately, not only with my character, but with Alison's character, and with the person telling the story, and with the person that was going to be in charge of with telling the story. And it was just it was like a no-brainer. I'd be a much dumber person than I am if I said no, But I didn't.
How many takes did it take you to do the green tea bottle scene?
Normal amount.
Yeah,
Yeah.
normal amount.
Right?
It's such a, I always thought, I mean, maybe
Multiples?
you, we're not, I'm not counting.
What'd you say?
I was gonna say maybe it's easier for you to answer something, like I'm never counting the amount it takes, but it wasn't crazy. It was
Yeah, it
just
wasn't
like
like
shooting
Dave
a normal
Fincher or
scene.
something
I don't
like
think
that. Like,
and I don't think it occurred to us at the time, like, this is the scene.
Yeah.
We have to get it perfect.
Right.
You know, it was just.
It was just that day. It was what's on the call sheet today. Like, okay, we got to do this scene before lunch. You know, like you just go about doing it and try to make it as believable. And you know, I think we spent more time talking about the beginning of the scene and the end of the scene, like the
yes.
button, and then
Yeah.
how me talking about. I mean, I kept trying to pitch you jokes.
About the remotes?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
I just have this theory that success is measured in the amount of pillows on a bed or remotes on a coffee table, and I was trying to push that along.
Can I tell you that I think of that every single time I go to bed?
Exactly.
Like every time I go and look at all my pillows, I'm like, I've made it. And then
It's my favorite.
and then I throw all of them on the floor, and then I get into the bed.
Yeah.
Like, it's so
It's
stupid.
like so many fucking dumb pillows. Remember just going to friends' parents' house and like look in their room because that was the best bed to jump on when like you're like 6. I'm like, so many pillows. They have so many more pillows than my parents. And then you start to realize, oh, look at how nice their car is too, and this house is a lot bigger than me and my family's house. All right, I see what's going on here. Pillows equal currency.
The other scene I wanted to ask about was the dancing scene, Alison. Was that all choreographed, or was that just you?
It was, thank you. It was totally choreographed. It was not me at all. We had a wonderful choreographer named Mandy Moore.
Mandy Moore, yeah, of course.
Not the Mandy Moore. Which I
don't know.
found
They
very
might be like
confusing.
Broadway
A
Dance Center,
choreographer,
like
Mandy Moore?
they might be like dancers. You know Mandy Moore.
You know the real Mandy Moore.
My sister is a
She
dancer.
is also
She was
the
excited.
real man. She is a real Mandy
Yeah, yeah.
Moore.
Yeah, we met.
That's what
And
I
it was
meant. Yeah, she's the
incredible.
real Mandy
Although but I did think it was the other Mandy Moore when I first got a bit. Mandy's gonna send you a video. Mandy Moore's choreographing. Oh. Does she live in the city, or is someone friends with her? That's so cool of her to have done that for me. But no, they sent me a video of her doing the choreography the first week of shooting, and so I got to kind of mark it in my trailer, and at night, I practiced it, and I got like an hour with the kids the day before we shot it, and the kids were great. They were rehearsing all day. I came in for an hour and was like, okay. And they were helping me with the moves, and on the day they were just like, the one little boy in the front was just the best. And after every take, he'd come over, just, you're doing great. Oh, thank you.
So awesome.
It's really good. It's going well.
I think we have time for just one more question here, which is anonymous. How did you choose the ending? Why did you decide not to end it at the moving truck?
Oh, because it's a fucking romantic comedy. I will admit that the moving truck is where the real life story would end.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I disagree.
But I think, hold on. Hold on, let me finish.
Oh, I was done after saying I disagree.
So we had to reshoot the ending of the film for a myriad of reasons that are really too boring to get into right now. But the financiers, in all of their infinite wisdom, said, are you sure you don't want to like rewrite it? Like, are you sure you don't want to have like a little, just like sort of like an ambiguous, like meh feeling that you get at the end of most indie films, because indie has become a genre now as opposed to like a way of making a movie. Like if you don't end it the way The Graduate ended, then you're a piece of fucking garbage. But I was like, guys, Jake and Lainey get together. Like the whole point of this, I might start crying. I'm sorry. The whole point of this is that these people have taught themselves, they have taught each other how to love each other. They can now, in the last shot, which is like a send up to the third man, but it's like also you watch them go into the rest of the world. It's like they can face everything now because they have each other. Like that's the whole point of falling in love. Like falling in love is not to get a feeling or to be a certain social status or like, just so that you have it, so that you can tell other people about it. You know, like love is about like accepting yourself and finding somebody that you can hold hands with as you like walk into the fucking mass of humanity that is like just a garbage nightmare show. And like you limp across the finish line with that person. Like I was just so offended that they would ask me like that they wouldn't get together. You know, like I was just like the whole fucking point of this is that they get together. Like, so obviously you can tell I'm a little, I've got some feelings.
Yeah.
I've written another movie that I put all those feelings in.
That's right.
I agree, though.
It's
Love-
like 2017. So.
Love isn't looking at each other eye to eye. It's
Yeah.
love is standing next to each other. That's, you know, how many people have seen a wedding cake where they're facing each other? No, it's always like that. You know? I agree.
Well,
said.
that is beautiful, and we were. And they were going to all tell you their favorite swear words, but we are out of time, I'm afraid. So we have to say thank you very much. Thank you all. And